Today we have this DJ Masterclass. I guess I'm gonna speak on a large part about myself, how I started, the reason why I started, and then also too we'll have a little demonstration musically. By the way, also too I just wanna let everybody know a lot of what happens in DJing today is digital, but Easy Mo Beat brought vinyl. I still do DJ. I still DJ vinyl. I'm an avid collector of vinyl. That's important to me. And I still adhere to a lot of the basics of original DJing. That comes from, in particular, my beginnings and how I started. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, United States of America. First, let's talk about the reason for my love of music and my place in music. I started out with a father that was from North Carolina, and I have aunts, uncles, grandfather, that I have a family that leads back to preachers, gospel singers. Music was always in my family. So by the time, with that background with my father, by the time he migrated to New York, his love of soul caused him to play all types of music in the household, from blues to soul, Motown, jazz, funk, what have you. I grew up in a very rich musical household. From all of the different music that he played, that's where my biggest influence started. And with that, I mean, there was always music going on in my household. So music was embedded in me at a really, really early age. As far as hip hop is concerned, I watched the transition of music. I watched music go from soul to funk to disco. Right around the stages of funk and disco is when the DJing became a really important element that started happening out in the parks and in the streets of New York City. I was there when the DJs brought out the turntables and the mixer, the same set that you see included with the records. I watched DJs form the art with two turntables, having two copies of the same record, going back and forth. The creation and rather the finding of the break beat and the need to keep that beat continually going. You know, it's a real interesting process because, and this is all leading to who I became. The breakbeat is important because the breakbeat is the reason for sampling. Basically, sampling is just an emulation of what's happening on the turntables. On the turntables, you have two copies of the same record, and you have a need to keep that favorite part of your record going on, leading up to today with today's digital sample, which is what emulates that whole process. Me as a DJ and watching everything happen as I did in my early years, I think I played music long enough as a DJ until eventually I wanted to make records. A lot of my biggest influences were Herbie Lovebug, people like Howie T, Marley Marl, who was a huge influence on me. People like DJ Jazzy J, with Africa Bambaataa and Cool DJ Red Alert, what a lot of the DJs were doing in the earlier part of New York, Uptown, Harlem, the Bronx, what was going on. That was a very huge influence for me. So one of my first opportunities to venture into the music and cause myself to be an artist started with, while I was working on my job, I used to work for, what is the over here in Switzerland, what is the name of the power company, the utility company? What is it called? Whatever is the equivalent of the like the power utility company here in Switzerland, that's what I worked for in New York. I was working on a job at Con Edison. And it is during while I was working for Con Edison that I became a part of a group called Rapping is Fundamental. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. But what happens is Rapping is Fundamental was me, A.B. Money, and J.R. You will find us singing on Miles Davis's The Doo-Bop song. You would also find us singing on Tupac's Temptations. That was us. But while I was working at Con Edison, A.B. Money had the idea to form the group. And he was like, we got me, we got Jay. He said, we need a third partner. He said, I have this idea for this group where you have three guys that rap and sing, and with the ability to perform three-part harmony. And that's what Rapping is Fundamental was. Rapping is Fundamental was three guys that rapped and sang. And at the time, mind you, that was kind of going against the grain. Rap was more grainy at the time. It wasn't acceptable. A lot of the sing-songy hooks that you have in hip-hop now, that wasn't as acceptable at that time, say like in the mid to late 80s. But we were taking chances and we were doing that. A lot of our biggest influences were like the Stylistics, the Delphonics, Blue Magic, a lot of the older doo-wop groups. It was a concept called doo-hop. The idea was to infuse doo-wop singing together with hip-hop, equal to doo-hop. And then I ended up playing on that word later when we did the Miles Davis album. I went from doo-hop to doo-bop because of Miles Davis' bebop styles. Anyway. But to be honest, Rapping is Fundamental is my real first entry into and my reason for even being in the business. There's when I realized I could become an artist. I also served as a DJ. In a third light, I also served as a producer. So I played many roles while being in this group. During the time while I was in Rapping is Fundamental, A.B. Money is the one who, he used to go to Sarah J. Hale High School in Brooklyn with Big Daddy Kane. Also, Biz Markie used to go to that school, or at least come up there and hang out. DJ Mr. C, who I grew up with in the same building in Brooklyn, in the Lafayette Gardens Housing Projects. He also went to the school. So, A.B. Money, going to school with Big Daddy Kane and being real close to him, he constantly would tell Kane, you gotta listen to my boy. You gotta listen to my boy. He's got beats, he's got beats. And Kane kept brushing them off and brushing them off. And sooner or later, eventually, Kane gave me a chance. He gave me my first slot. That was on his second album, It's a Big Daddy Thing. And my first chance was Another Victory and Calling Mr. Welfare featuring Cool DJ Red Alert, if you may be familiar with that album. So to be honest, it's like Big Daddy Kane is my first real commercial entry into the business. Rapping is Fundamental was my introduction. Rapping is Fundamental was the eye-opener, the thing that made me realize that I could be an artist. It made me realize all of the different roles that I played: DJ, artist, producer. After acquiring the gig with Big Daddy Kane on his second album, then the calls started coming in and other people started requesting my production. After Big Daddy Kane, on Cold Chillin' Warner Brothers at the time, another guy who ended up getting signed to the same label came to me, or rather his manager did. The name of that artist was The Genius. And The Genius is someone who you might know who later on, he turned out to be GZA in the Wu-Tang. Early on, his manager came to me. He's like, "Yo, I got these cats. They taking like they taking the karate, like the martial arts, and they mixing it together with the music." I'm like, yeah, whatever. Let's just make the song, make the beat. He's like, no, seriously, yo, it's a whole slew of them. It's like 9, 10, 11 of them. I'm like, okay, whatever. We record the album. The album is called Words from the Genius. Okay. When Melquan brought Genius to my house in Brooklyn, I didn't know at the time, but he was bringing other guys along, and they were tagging along. These guys were Raekwon, Old Dirty Bastard, rest in peace. These guys came to my house when I was like still living in the projects with my family. I got demos to this day of Old Dirty Bastard and Genius that never ever been released. RZA, he was there in a really early light. I don't know if anybody's familiar with RZA's first release on Tommy Boy. Ooh, We Love You, Rakim. I did the B-side called Sexcapades. I hope y'all don't mind me telling my story. We building up to. They told me that this masterclass is for like an hour and a half, so we're gonna waste that hour and a half me talking about me, and then I want exchange from y'all out there too. If you got any questions or anything at any time, you got any questions you wanna interrupt or reach out, I'll be glad to.
I would like to ask you, at what year did you actually meet RZA? How did you actually meet RZA living in Staten Island and coming from Brooklyn?
Okay, he said, how did I actually meet RZA with me being in Brooklyn? That was from, like I said, Melquan, who was the manager of the Genius. To be honest, Melquan, the manager of Genius, he had this label called Jamaica Records. Anybody that's a hip-hop historian, they probably know about Divine Force and Sir Abu, who was the first artist that Melquan had signed to that label. There was intentions for the Genius to be on that label, but then he realized from looking at what Big Daddy Kane had on Cold Chill and Warner Brothers, he wanted the same thing for Genius. So when Melquan brought Genius to me, that's I told you, so many different people. Every time they would come to my crib, they would bring other people. Like one time he bring some other young kid. This dude is Raekwon. Then he bring RZA. I met so many people through just from that experience with Wu-Tang. But that's how I met them. Brought them to my house. Yep. So from Wu-Tang and the work I had did there, then the offers just continued, rather the requests for my production continued to come in. After Wu-Tang, there was some remixes in the middle here and there. Pink Cookies in a plastic bag getting crushed by buildings, LL Cool J. The very last third bass record, which was Gladiator, it was on a soundtrack, the movie soundtrack for Gladiator. That's crazy. I get the credit for doing the last third bass record. Sometimes I think about that. That's crazy.
So how did you meet MC Sir?
No, I just remixed the record. They weren't there. There was an original of the song on the soundtrack, and as a matter of fact, to be honest, let's talk about Russell Simmons / Rush producer management. Russell Simmons had Rush artist management in the 90s. Hey, this started in the 80s too with artists like EPMD. I mean, listen, Anybody who knows hip hop knows that in the late 80s to the 90s, matter of fact, for the large part of the 80s and the 90s, if you were in hip hop, you weren't really doing it if you weren't rolling with Rush. That was the term too, rolling with Rush Artist Management. Me being a producer, I ended up at Rush Producers Management. That was the producer division. Maybe I should talk about how I ended up at Rush too. I was in my house one day. First of all, by now I had only had the Big Daddy Kane song under my belt. That's the only one thing I had, but I knew I wanted to take it higher. I'm sitting around in my house, still living with my parents in the projects back then. And I get this idea, I'm like, I want a manager. I want to be with Rush. I call 411, information, no lie. I call information, I ask for Rush Artist Management. Okay, they direct me and they connect me. So I call and the receptionist picks up and she says, well, you're a producer, so I think you want to be with the producer division. I think you want to be with, there's a lady, her name is Francesca Sparrow. So she's out to lunch when she comes back. You can call then. So I called and Francesca's, she picked up. God bless Francesca too, rest in peace. She passed away maybe like about anywhere from 3 up to about 3 years ago. But I consider her to be one of the greatest managers that I ever had, the first, and the one who helped jump my career off. So when she came back from lunch, I called, okay, she was there to pick up. So I go into trying to sell myself. I'm like, hello, I'm real shy. I'm like, hello, this is Easy Mo B, and I produced Big Daddy Kane, and I produced The Genius, and I have him, and I'm trying to tell her, and she's like, I know who you are. I was like, for real? She said, yeah. She said, yeah, I know who you are. And then she goes into like the little small remixes and the stuff that I did. I said, wow. So she said, so you want to set a meeting? I was like, yeah. That's what I wanted. That's what I called about. So I have my first meeting. I go up to Rush, RPM, the producers division. We meet, and she told me, put some of your best tracks on tape, and, I'll listen to it. I'll check it out. So I come in addition to what she already knew about me, and including the tracks that went on the tape, she was like, oh yeah, you got it, definitely. So the projects start coming in, and then I got one of the most wonderful, this is crazy. Sometimes I can't even believe it. I'm new in the game, okay, like 89 to somewhere I say like mid-90, going on 91. This is my entry. I'm only in the game like 2 years, and while I'm at RPM, Francesca tells me, oh, Miles, you know Miles Davis, right? The jazz trumpet? I'm like, yeah. She said, he's been hanging out with Russell, and he wants to get into hip hop. Well, yeah, cool. So I'm gonna put together your tape along with a bunch of the other guys on the roster, and he just wants to hear some things. He wants to fill it out. So we all did that, all of the producers on the roster. We put together our reels, and then Miles set this one meeting at his house. At that time, he was living on Central Park West between 88th and 89th. I remember it clear as day, with the doorman downstairs and everything. So he sets this meeting at his house, and it's sort of like an audition, so to speak, if anything. And all of the different producers, they played their music, and for some reason, he saved me for last. Mind you, he had already heard my tape from Francesca. I put together my reel and she sent it to him. So they all finished and everything. And at the end, they all finished and they left. And he said, I want to work with you. Where's that tape? Put that tape in that Fran gave me. And the tape was a demo song of the doo-bop song. It was just a bare track at the time. And that's what, believe it or not, that and we're gonna step back to Genius. Genius made this song called True Fresh MC. On the reel, on the production reel that was sent out to Miles, it was some of my instrumental tracks, but it was also previous production things that I did. One of the songs that was on that reel was Genius's True Fresh MC. While I was at Miles' house, he pulled out the reel with the different songs and True Fresh MC, he put it on, and it's a hip hop song. Come on, man, it's Miles Davis from Jazz. And he was like, I like that. I like that. I'm like, you serious? You like that? He said, yeah, you do that with me. I'm like, yeah. I couldn't believe this man wanted to do hip hop. This is a man that came from the bebop era of jazz. You're talking about upper 40s, 50s. I mean, I didn't even think that in any kind of way I could dream of combining together to work and do anything with him. But when you really think about it, it's about music. It's about jamming. Everything is a jam session. It's about musicians and singers and people coming together and making it happen. And that's what happened on the Doo-Bop album. That's how me and Miles, we connected. And that's how we got that album, Doo-Bop. That album won a Grammy for Best R&B Instrumental. And I don't know if anybody can remember from that period right there, early 90s, with the MC Hammer, Young MC, Vanilla Ice period. You know, you want a Grammy right now? A Grammy is a glorious thing, but early in the 90s, hip hop frowned on the Grammy. They was like, oh, you won that Grammy, you know. So I used to call it the Grammy Curse, but when Miles Davis' album won the Grammy, I thought I was cursed. I thought I was over, for real. I thought I was done. I thought I was like, they was gonna treat me like a, you know, Vanilla Ice or something. But nah, for real, seriously, in the early 90s, if you won a Grammy, that was it. It was like, oh, you. But one of the most beautiful things happened as far as timing is concerned right after Miles. Francesca at Rush, she told me, she said, Andre Harrell, she said Andre from Uptown Records. He's got an artist over there that he wants you to go play some music for. It's a new artist. I'm like, okay. I go over and I play music and I go to meet the guy. The guy is this young, fat guy from Brooklyn. Didn't live too far from around my way where I grew up in Brooklyn. Mind you, this young, fat guy that I met, maybe about, I don't know, maybe about half a year earlier, I was at DJ Mr. C's house, and he played me a demo. He was like, yo, this cat right here, he gonna be something. He gonna be something. And the dude he was nice on the mic. I left DJ Mr. C's house. I didn't think nothing about it. Okay, so I go to this meeting at Uptown that Fran sent me to, that I'm playing tracks for. I go and I meet him. It's the same guy that was on DJ Mr. C's tape, and his name at the time was Biggie Smalls. Yeah. Later on, Notorious B.I.G. came from, you know, like it's for copyright reasons, trademark reasons, the name was already taken. There was some other artist that had the name Biggie Smalls, and so he had to change his name. That's how he became B.I.G. So we go into the studio and we start to record. And then Puffy, Sean Puffy Combs, he signed a bunch of different artists. He says that he has another artist. Yeah, I got this guy, Craig Mack. Yeah, I need a beat for him. So I'm playing tracks. He is the track that ended up for Flavor in Your Ear. So, yo, I want that. I said, yo, what you call him? Apache, he's holding that beat. He said, what? I'll pay you money for that right now. You know, Apache was taking a long time to write to it. So I said, okay, the track is yours, it's sold. There's a lot of situations like that too. People that just like sat on beats for a long time and somebody else ended up getting the track. But that's how Flavor in Your Ear came about. Then there was Notorious B.I.G. Then the request and the opportunities just begin to just like tumbleweed, just rolling. Busta Rhymes, the Lost Boys, Queen Latifah, LL Cool J, a lot of other new and up and coming artists at the time, like King Just, people like that. Did I say the Lost Boys? Yeah. When I think about it, a lot of the big records, the ones that ended up being big records, when you think about it, a lot of them were new artists at the time. Just like Alicia, Blue Eyes, that was up here earlier, you can consider her a new artist. It's amazing to me that as new artists, these today, they're the legends. They're the ones that we look back at, like, you know, the Lost Boys, as far as my catalog is concerned. Notorious B.I.G. It's just amazing. I feel blessed to have had the opportunity to do a lot of the things that I've done. I didn't know for my talents that I would be able to spread myself then across the span of different areas of the business. I didn't know that when I first got my first DJ set, which I saved up from my after-school job, I didn't know that that was gonna lead to producing records that would turn into opportunities for me to request to do scoring and film, for film and TV. I had no idea that that would have me DJing at a club, or rather like doing things like DJing for Dionne Warwick, something I did like last year. It's just been an amazing ride, and I continue to apply myself. One thing that I had to learn over time is that music is an application. We need music for several different reasons. When a commercial comes on TV, there's music behind it. Of course, we're artists. As a DJ, music is an application. Video games, everything within the facet of digital, it requires music. And it never ever ends. I've never ever felt like I've gotten too big or like I reached a pinnacle. You're never too great. You're never too big to keep learning and fulfilling the need to continue to reach higher. With the advancement of technology, this is what makes it so much clearer to me. It's just like right now, I'm scoring and doing cue music for a couple of upcoming TV series. When I first started out, all I wanted to do was make beats. I didn't know that that's what that would lead to. I had no idea. So, are there any questions that anybody wants to know?
I would like to ask you, in the beginning between the years of 1985 and 93, and in between the transition of music, how the hell were you able to adapt yourself through the transitions of Big Daddy Kane and Tupac, for example? They're two different complete artists from two different generations. How, as a producer, do you continue to work with someone like Big Daddy Kane and then come 12 years later and work with Tupac Shakur? How do you do that as a producer? How the hell do you figure that out?
Because maybe their styles are a little different, but the concept is the same. Just like, eventually I'm gonna get up here, I'm gonna do a little demonstration and get on the turntables and cut up a little bit, vinyl style. You want to, yeah, yeah. But it's interesting what you asked right there is because it's just an ongoing same concept. The same way the cause of the break beat, the reason for the break beat is just to continue that favorite part of your record in digital turned what we call sampling or looping. Now, with Big Daddy Kane, for your question, what Big Daddy Kane was rapping, I mean, the style and the flows might have been different in 88, 89, but in 93, Tupac is doing the same thing. He just got a different message. He just got a different message and a different purpose, but it's the same concept. I thought you was gonna ask something even more extraordinary than that, like how would I end up, and these are little things that people never ever probably known that I've done, but like from working with a Big Daddy Kane and Tupac and Queen Latifah to remixing Horace Silver's The Sophisticated Hippie. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Candy Dulfer from the Dutch country and Amsterdam. She's a saxophone player. I worked with her, Saxa Go-Go. Again, man, it's the same concept. An artist and producer, marriage. And it doesn't matter whether it's digital or if it's an authentic, like live instrumentation thing. It's artists jamming together and making music. Yeah. Anybody else have any other kind of question, or you want me to keep rambling on about myself? Huh? Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll keep on rambling about myself. All right. So then, much later on, we talk about the after Tupac, Biggie era. After that, matter of fact, let's talk about Tupac. I met Tupac in one of the earliest stages. Matter of fact, during a period when him and Notorious B.I.G, they were actually friends. And they were cool. Big Daddy Kane had a show it was one of the Budweiser Superfest that was happening at Madison Square Garden. I'll never forget, it was Keith Sweat, SWV, groups like that was also on the bill. So Big Daddy Kane goes up on stage and he had a little freestyle session going. And in that, everybody might know that famous freestyle, gonna do it like this, where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at? You know. On that stage, he called up his dancer, School Lover, who just turned his name to Johnny Famous. Shout to Johnny Famous. Little Shaheem from Wu-Tang was on the stage that day. Biggie, Tupac, he brought them up. At the time, Big Daddy Kane, he was the man. So he's like giving these newer artists some light on his show, on his stage. That's when that real famous Biggie Pac freestyle happened that day. That's where we get that from. A lot of people don't know, but it was from a Big Daddy Kane show, Budweiser Superfest at Madison Square Garden. So after the freestyle, and by the way, rapping is fundamental. We was tag along. We was there too on stage. Wherever Big Daddy Kane would go, we was following him. We was trailing behind him. But after that performance, backstage, they had this long hallway, long narrow hallway. And backstage for Madison Square Garden wasn't literally backstage. You had to go like downstairs. But this long hallway, I was walking it, and I was walking this way, and Tupac was coming towards me, and he was pointing at me. He was like, yo, I want to work with you. He said, yo, you work with Big, right? I said, yeah. He said, yeah, you did all them, the party and bullshit, all them beats. He said, yo, I want to work with you. Matter of fact, he said, I've been looking for you. I was like, what? You looking for me? Listen, by that time right there, Tupac was somebody that I already respected. This man, we might remember him from his earlier beginnings in Digital Underground, right? And then he had turned actor. By that time, he had already made it into Juice. And so I'm like, yo, you want to work with me? I already knew his stuff. So we go into the studio and we work, and it's real interesting working with that dude. That dude is a dynamo in the studio. He never ever stopped. Like just like a ball of fire. Like he's running around like, yo, you gonna bring up that song that we did yesterday, you know what I'm saying? And talking to my engineer, Eric, yeah, you bring up that tape, remember that second one, we gonna go to that second verse, and I wanna fix that part where I was, when I said to, fix that, and then, yeah, I was like, yo, I'm trying to keep up with this dude. I literally had to leave the room and be like, yo, this the first dude I ever worked with the biggest ball of energy. And then after a while, I just got used to it. You just flowed with him. That's the reason why I guess he left behind such a large body of work. Like people think Tupac is still alive. He still got music coming out, and that's because that furious rate that he was working at. He didn't want to waste no time. There's times when we used to be in the studio and he actually used to be like, get up, don't sit down, get up, man. So that's the reason why he has that huge body of work that he got, because he was just like tireless, always working in the studio. From there, how about, let's talk about working with Queen Latifah. That came from my early, the request from Apache, Flavor Unit, and Shakim. Shout to Queen Latifah and Shakim, who provided so many different opportunities for different artists and people, and made the transition from music to film and TV. She's a wonderful soul who provides continuous inspiration for us to keep doing it. Her as a woman herself. But when I work with Flavor Unit and Queen Latifah's Flavor, she had a song that she needed me to do, and this song ended up on the Sunset Park soundtrack. There were other soundtracks too that when you're working and you're working with these artists, you don't know where a lot of the songs are gonna end up. You have no idea. You're just recording, and then you find out later that the song it's ending up on a soundtrack or a compilation, or maybe directly on someone's album. For Tupac, another one of the more memorable songs that I did with him, My Block, that ended up on the movie The Show, that soundtrack there. So it's just like, he over there like this. Yo, seriously, does anybody have and want to interject? Got any questions or anything they wanted to ask or? No?
Yeah, what would be your advice, for young upcoming artists, just to try to make it as an underground artist, to the top, you know, like you did in the industry, what would be your best advice to give as far as, you know, getting the music out there and everything?
The best advice for a new artist that's coming out, I think, as far as what you do, you need to get closer to it. And that is hanging around and being around the artist. Wherever the producer's at, I mean, I did everything from going and hanging out up at record labels, waiting outside a radio station, every sort of conference or seminar that they have going on, things like this here today, you never know who you may meet. As far as in the physical, as far as your music and your material, and we have a lot of different mediums that we didn't have, like coming up in my time, say like email, things like that. A simple thing that's common today, email, we didn't have that back then. I wish we had stuff like that. What, I would have been sitting in my house like sending up. But it was better that, you know what though? I'm glad you mentioned that, which led me to talk about email and like modern day communication. A lot of songs are made, we all know, you don't have to, everybody doesn't have to be in the same room to record nowadays. I could send a track to you, and if you got a studio set up in your house or at the studio you at, you can lay just the hook. You ain't even the rapper, you could just lay the hook on the song. Then you send that back to me, and at my studio, then a rapper comes in and lays their rap verse on it, and then somebody else, two other rappers come, and then you have a song. We could not do that back then.
But would you say it's positive or negative as an evolution? Like you say, sometimes you need to connect with people and be in the same room.
Mm-hmm.
And how would you see this as a producer? Like just something you need to work with and bringing new things to music, or you miss some, I would say you miss the old days.
I do miss the old days, but you know what? I'm not against the technology. I'm not mad at people that make records remotely or from different places. I get mad when you write in the same city and you want to send beats and you want to, you know what I mean? Just get together, go to the studio, have that synergy, that chemistry with the artist that you're working with. I mean, what the technology has done, I'm glad you asked that, is because it's created like this laziness. And people don't want to work together. The same way it affects in modern day the way we communicate. This guy here, and instead of me being able to look him straight in the eye, or even in a relationship with a girl, we texting each other. Man, walk up to him and talk. Like, hey, man, how you doing? See how I'm looking you straight in the eye and all of that? Like, that's what an A&R meeting used to be. That's what a meeting with an artist used to be like. And a lot of the stuff that I did got made that way. A lot of the stuff that I've done got made the way that you're talking about too, where the track was sent and the vocals was recorded. I'm not against it. I'm not against it. In the end result, as long as the synergy and the chemistry is right and the song came out, as long as it's something that you can feel. There are songs that get made and there's music that get made, you can tell. You can tell people wasn't in the room together. They just slapped this verse on top of this guy, as far as the topic of what he's rapping and speaking about or singing, it don't have nothing to do with, and it doesn't match. And you can hear it, you can tell. Like, energy don't lie. That's one thing that will never ever happen. Energy don't lie. Like, so I'm not, to answer your question, no, I'm not against it as long as the records come out sounding good and if it seems like it makes sense. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I don't speak English very well, but I will try to make a question. When you make a producer or you try to make a beat, uh, you think about what people would like to listen, or you try to think about yourself. Oh, that's what I like, that's what I do, or mix both.
Yeah, I think about the person that I'm gonna work with. A lot of times I actually try to cater to them. Like when Tupac was walking down that long hallway in Madison Square Garden, he said, I wanna work with you. Immediately, as soon as I turned my back and I left her and I went home, that's when the mind starts turning. I'm like, what am I gonna do with him? So I gotta think, where's he from? He was from the West Coast. So I said, okay, what does West Coast, what do they like? What they like is Parliament Funkadelic. They like the funk. They like Zap. I said, that's it. I want to use Computer Love by Zap. Now I'm having conversations with myself. Now it's two of me up in my head. Like there's the one Easy Mo be over here and then the other one. And they talking to each other. One said, Computer Love. The other Easy Mo be in my head said, but Computer Love been used so many times before. What you gonna do with that? Then the other Easy Mo B said, speed it up on 45 and filter it and muffle it. Add some drums to it and build a new track around it. And that's how Temptations was built. So that's all alluding back to what you said about, do you keep the artist that you're gonna work with in mind? It'd be good for you to take into consideration their background, where they from, what their style is, and you use all of those type of things to cater to them. And then you and you both get what you want. They get a piece of the best of what they want because a lot of it is owed back to their background and where they're from. You know, you not even being from their era or knowing anything about their background, but yet being able to connect with that, you're making both you and them happy, and you're executing the project, and that's what happened with Tupac. The other songs, on that same note, he told me, I said, he was on the set of Above the Rim, by the way. Like he was filming Above the Rim, Rucker Park, uptown in Manhattan. So I said, and I always ask a lot of artists this, I say, yo, is there anything that you ever wanted to flip, like a record, a sample that nobody ever used? He said, yeah, man, hook me up some Bootsy. He's talking about Bootsy Collins. I said, what records? Yeah, I want something with, make me something with Munchies for Your Love. That's how you talk. And what's a telephone bill? So I go home and I had those albums, I had those records. I start listening to them and I'm like, what am I doing with these records? I start with the drums and just building. And the one that was What's a Telephone Bill? That became Straight Ballin'. And the one with Munchies for Your Love, that became Running. Running from the Police, that's right, that one. There's an Easy Mo B original of that. More people might know the Eminem remixed one more, but there's a original to that. So that's how those records came about. Good question. I'm glad you asked that. Producers should think about artists more. Have that artist in mind. Think about their background, where they come from. Cater to the artist.
How did you find the piano for that song? I've been studying this song for 50
Are you talking about dum
Yeah, goddamn right. How
dum
did you find the piano?
dum dum?
On what keyboard did you use this for? This is not a regular piano.
I know you're not gonna believe that, and that's gonna lead into a whole nother conversation. For years, I have played keys with full chords and everything. It comes from stacking in the Akai rack mount sampler. It comes from what you call stacking key groups. I actually form chords. This is through a sampling. Nah, serious, I got this thing that I consider to be what I call I play samples and like, if you ever heard, if anybody knows Everything Remains Raw by Busta Rhymes, you listen, that record, Temptations, what's another one? Like the vibraphone on Busta Rhymes, It's a Party featuring Johnny. Bloom, 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 bloom. First of all, I'm multi-pitching a xylophone, right? I got bloom, 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 bloom. That, you have that, right? Then in harmony, I come with another layer. Bloom, 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 bloom. And you put them together, people, they stand there like, yo, how you do that? It's the concept of harmonics. It's just like what we did with the doo-wop, doo-hop, with Rapping is Fundamental, what we did. 3-part harmony, the same concept with 3-part harmony. It's all harmonics. One thing, it doesn't matter whether it's 2 separate instruments, but whatever sounds are going together harmonically, they have to be in tune with each other. And I've done some amazing things with the SP1200, the rack mount samplers, the Akai S900 series, the 950, the 1000, things like that. I look at it as layers. That's all I look at it as. Like in my head, if I could picture it, it's like layers. It's a rainbow of colors. But all of the layers that you have, that you're using, they have to be harmonically in tune for you to be able to make music. And I use that concept over years and even still to this very same day. Through sampling. It's not, it's something that takes some time and you have to have like a natural ear for it. Mind you, maybe I should bring this up. Nobody's ever gonna believe this. With the concept of the harmonics that I just spoke about, and with y'all knowing now that like I produced an entire Miles Davis album, I have no formal training in music. I'm serious, I've never had music theory. You know, people go to Berkeley School of Music and things like that. Everything that I've done is by ear. I don't intend to just be comfortable with that because you're always trying to reach higher and be more. Just recently I was saying I want to learn to play guitar. I want to be able to sit and fluently play piano. I always want to be better. There's nothing wrong with being better, but a lot of all of the things that I've done, it's all by ear. I consider that a gift from God. No, I'm serious. I consider that to be like a gift from God, knowing that this note goes with this note, and then you add 2, 3 others, and then you bring other instruments into the picture, and as a fold, you have music. You take Flavor in Your Ear. It's a very simple track. All it is what? Drums, bass. Let's break it down. A guitar note with a big throw, big reverb on it. Boom. All Flavor in Your Ear was one note. One guitar note transposed. The note originally might have been dong or dong, something like that. I start playing around in multi-pitch, trying to make something. Dong, 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 dong. Then on the hook, like some rock guitar. It's music, like I said, it's harmonics. You just take different instruments and put things together and just make music. A lot of the producers that are out here, there's people who, this is like being taped. There's a lot of people who will see that. They probably won't believe the stuff I'm saying, but I spent hours. No, I'm serious. Spent out, like Flavor in Your Ear was made in like about 20 minutes. But there's other things that I work on. I'll get the foundation, and they may take days. I'll start on this part here, and 2 days later, because I'm busy and I have a lot of things to do, 2 nights later, I'll come back, I'll bring the track up. I'm just sitting there listening. To me, it's not full. It needs more. It doesn't matter how long it takes to make a track. It doesn't matter how fast you make the track. It's really about how effective you are in making a good piece of music. I don't put those kind of demands on myself. I hear producers all the time. Yeah, I made that beat in like 8 minutes. Yeah, that's good for you. I'm not gonna try to make a beat in 8 minutes. I'm not. I'm not gonna put a demand and a rush on myself like that. I'll put myself in a place where I'm comfortable. I could take my time. I could think about what I need to put to it. I want to be able to give myself the time and the space to maybe, if I have to, change my mind. Maybe I'm using a guitar in there, but it's not the right guitar. I sit back and I look. So I don't put those kind of demands on myself. Yeah.
Would you say that not knowing the theory of music would free you from some limits that you would have maybe have put on your own self by knowing the musical theory, like authorizing yourself to do things that someone who has studied music wouldn't do because in his mind, before playing it, would have some wrong or...
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, there's definitely limits to what I do because everything that I've done is not based upon true music theory, and it's been by ear. So I don't encourage anybody. In other words, I'm glad you said that. I'm not here to tell everybody, oh, you don't need to learn music. You don't need to take up music theory. That's very untrue. That's very untrue.
But it freed you in a way to limits that some other people could have put to themselves.
True, true. That is very true. You know, when it comes to sampling, like I told you, for me, it's all about harmonics and things being in tune with each other. I do play a little bit of keyboard, and where's the, oh, he left and he went out. But I was jamming with this artist in the studio, in Hana's studio over there, Hana Road Studio. They couldn't believe it. I jumped on the drum set and I started like jamming, playing drums. I started as a young kid, a young boy. I learned to play drums from the church. It's like riding a bike. You might not ride the bike every day, but you know you can come back to it and ride that bike, and that's what it is with me with the drums. I don't play drums all the time, but the mechanics, the knowledge for it is there. And when I went into the studio hours ago, it just started coming back to me. I started jamming. Anyway, y'all ready for a little bit of music? Yeah. All right. I don't know how to cut this. I don't know how to cut this mic off, but for feedback reasons, until I'm finished, could you cut it off? Yeah. See, like, with the records, when you're playing vinyl, you got to change records. You play this record, you finish, put that one back, bring another one. With digital DJing, you can store thousands of songs and files in your computer with the MP3 DJing. And I just love to use my records. So what you will see is, you won't see any laptop up here, but what you will see is me changing records. One of the original ways that DJing started.
had last night? Last night changed it all. I really had a ball. Last night changed it all. I really had a ball.
Hello?
Hey, what was you at last night?
Hello?
Hey, what was you at last night?
Hello?
Hey, what was you at last night? Last night changed it all. I really had a ball. Last night changed it all. I really had a ball. into it. Everybody run down. Get involved. Everybody run down. Get into it. Everybody run down. Get involved. Everybody get everybody get everybody get
One, two, one, two, one, two, one, two. I came through the hood, no hood. Thought about what it would be like living in the hood. Goddamn, I'm with Easy Mo B, Easy Mo B. I'm so Easy Mo B. I'm so Scotland Rock. I'm so KRS-One. I'm so Scotland Rock. I'm so run DMC. Chill to me, speed D-O-B-O. I'm so. I one patch on my hood. Goddamn, I'm no good. Okay, messing with the hood, messing with the hood. This is the chance of my life. Oh. Easy, Mo, B. 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 Mo, B. I love my life. I can't take up on trife. I can't do it like you can't do it. I'm in the hood like ain't nothing good. I try to keep my freestyles so fluent. I'm so fluorescent. I'm like 3D. Chilling with Easy Mo B in 2017. And reminiscing me about Pac in his days. I'm so crazy. I'm on that easy Mo B. I'm on that easy Mo B. Damn, you got me so hot. I wish I could chill up in the spot. I got no dope, I got no crack. I'm chilling in Switzerland. Goddamn, I want more than 100 grand. I'm looking at the lights, I'm looking at the flights, I'm looking at the sights, I'm looking at. Tell my baby mama, meet me up in Terramina. Come on, Easy Mo back, bring it back. Gotcha. Alright, Easy Mo B, 2017. Come on.
We all of us true went through, and though we made it through the storm, I really want you to realize, I really want to put you on. I've been searching for someone to satisfy my every need. Won't you be my inspiration? Be the real love that I need. Real love. I'm searching for real love.
Now he's a super cat man, you a dan dada. Now he's a super cat man, you a dan dada. Now he's a super cat man, you a dan dada. Now he's a super cat man, you a dan dada. Now he's a super cat man, you a dan dada. Now he's a super cat man, you a dan dada. Now he's a super cat man, you a dan dada. Now he's a super cat man, you a dan dada. Now he's a super cat man, you a dan dada. Now he's a super cat man, you a dan dada. Now he's a super cat man, you a dan dada. Now he's a super cat man, you a dan dada. Now he's a super cat man, you a dan dada. Now he's a super cat man, you a dan dada. Now he's a super cat man, you a dan dada. Now he's a super cat man, you a dan dada. Now he's a super cat man, you a dan dada. Now he's a super cat man, you a dan dada. Now he's a super cat man, you a dan dada. Now he's a super cat man, you a dan dada. Now he's a super cat man, you a dan dada. Now he's a super cat man, you a dan dada. Now he's a super cat man, you a dan dada. Now he's a super cat man, you a dan dada.
As I sit back, relax, steam a blunt, sip a vex. Think about the sexy singers that I wanna sex. I'll probably go to jail for fucking Patti LaBelle. Ooh, Regina Belle, she probably do me swell. Jasmine Guy was fly, Mariah Carey's kinda scary. Wait a minute, what about my honey Mary? Them jeans, they fitting like a glove. I had a crush on you since real love, huh? Hold your horses, I'ma show you who the boss of intercourse is. Sex, I'm taking no losses. Even groups like SWV and TLC can't see B.I.G. As I sit back, relax, steam a blunt, sip a vex. Think about the sexy singers that I wanna sex. I'll probably go to jail for fucking Patti LaBelle. As I sit back, relax, steam a blunt, sip a vex. Think about the sexy singers that I wanna sex. I'll probably go to jail for fucking Patti LaBelle. As I sit back, relax, steam a blunt, sip a vex. Think about the sexy singers that I wanna sex. I'll probably go to jail for fucking. As I sit back, relax, steam a blunt, sip a vex. Think about the sexy singers that I wanna sex. I'll probably go to jail for fucking Patti LaBelle. Ooh, Regina Belle. As I sit back, relax, steam a blunt, sip a vex. Think about the sexy singers that I wanna sex. I'll probably go to jail for fucking Patti LaBelle. Ooh, Regina Belle. She probably do me swell. Jasmine Guy was fly, Mariah Carey's kinda scary. Wait a minute, what about my honey Mary? Them jeans, they fitting like a glove. I had a crush on you since real love, huh? Hold your horses, I'ma show you who the boss of intercourse is. Sex, I'm taking no losses. Even groups like SWV and TLC can't see B.I.G. with telepathy. The recipe, a picture hardcore with the gun. Pimpin' ain't easy, but it sure is fun. When I bust my nuts, I bust them one by one. So what's the 411, hun? Dreams of fucking an R&B bitch. I'm just playing what I'm saying. Dreams of fucking an R&B bitch. I'm just playing. Everybody dance. Everybody dance. Everybody dance. Shake it now. Everybody dance. Everybody dance. Everybody dance. Everybody dance. Shake it now. Everybody dance. Everybody dance. Everybody dance. Everybody dance. Shake it now. Everybody dance. Everybody dance. Everybody dance. Everybody dance.
Just like Uniblab, robotic kicking flab, or flavor bit of batter, chitter chatter, madder than the Mad Hatter. I bet you my come by fatter. I got the data, turn your body into antimatter. And just like a piece of sizzling, you'll fit inside my stomach with the eggs and grits between. The king is what I mean, my man, get a cup and put some change inside your hand. Now hold up, let's make this official. Everybody, let's agree that MCs need a tissue. The folks my only issue. I bet your mama miss you, and I bet the Mac take off like an MX missile. No more you whining on the charts climbing as I make the phone kicking out more harder than a diamond. And if you didn't know who's rhyming, I guess I'm gonna say quick. You won't be around next year. My rap's too severe, kicking mad flavor in you.